All right, boys. Welcome to episode 8, following an 11-goal week by Chelsea. It's we were just talking off pod here that it's really been a great weekend, not only personally for all of us, but great sports weekend. So I guess we'll go around. How you guys doing?
Never better. Good weekend. Good to catch up with you guys.
Yeah, good week all the way across the board, and good to be back on our normal Sunday night routine. So always looking forward to those.
Yeah, it'll be a great Monday if Ole doesn't get fired tomorrow.
Ole in.
All day, every day. All right. Well, we usually go around. We talk about things we're drinking. I finally tapped out my my Cardinal Spirits straight bourbon, so I'm working on my final glass of that. Parker, you mentioned you got something new.
Yeah, picked up a bottle of Clyde's May Alabama style whiskey. So just had my first couple sips of that. So good. I'm up in Duluth for the weekend with my wife, and got to adventure to a new liquor store and pick out something I've never seen before. It's always kind of fun.
What's the analysis so far after the first couple sips?
It's smooth.
Very nice.
I haven't had bourbon in a bit, but yeah, it's good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm finishing off the Slipknot Iowa number 9. I kind of like Parker. I was out of town, just up in the UP, so didn't have a chance to really stop and get anything new. So it was just kind of what I had laying around the house when I got back home this afternoon. So finishing that up, but smooth as always. I've missed it. It's something that never gets old. So doing good.
So Matt, sounds like we might need to take a field trip to Discount Liquor this week. Stock up.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so getting to the football here, Chelsea had 2 matches on the week. First, we'll get into Wednesday's match, Champions League Group H. Chelsea coming away 4-0 victors over Swedish. I guess they were Swedish champions last year, Malmo. 2-0 in the first half, 4-0 in the second half, though we did lose Timo Werner and Big Rom. Let's go around the circle here. Parker, what did you think of the match?
It's good to get some goals finally. Good to get some production from our guys. I believe I called the 4-0 scoreline too, so I was pretty proud of myself. Patted myself on the back for that one.
Spot on.
But I think the big takeaway is how do we respond, and we obviously didn't know that we had Norwich 7-0 coming up, but we're all kind of looking around saying, how are we going to score some goals without Rom and Timo? So I think a lot of the discussion and the analysis from that game was, all right, we did well, we responded well, but what does our team look like going forward, and how do we line up? So I think we all know it's pretty positive, and no, it's a solid, controlling, and really good win against Malmo.
I mentioned this to you guys before, kind of as the roster sheet came out. I thought it was a very, very strong squad to throw out there against arguably the number 4 in our pool for the Champions League. I thought it was a little bit overkill, and I don't think that Rom needed to play. I think Timo's injury, I think it might have happened regardless. It was a non-contact injury, so I think even if you did sit Rom and you had Timo going up top, he might have suffered the same thing. I just felt like the squad that he put out there was overkill. Granted, you got the win, sure, but at what cost? Realistically, in the Champions League group stage, you're looking for points. You're not really concerned about goal differential. I think you just needed the win, and you call it good from there. So, I mean, aside from that, I think it was a great game. We did what I think a lot of us expected to do: control possession, just control everything from the forefront, and really never look back. It seeing the injuries to Ram and Timo, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world, but it's also not something that you wish to see your two strikers, one playing as a left wing, but you see your two strikers go down in the same game. Now you have to figure out where the rest of the goals are going to come from, but I'll save that for the Norwich game.
Yeah, we'll definitely get back to that and the lineup selection here, because I do want to touch on that, because you and I talked in midweek and we have differing opinions on it. But I do want to real quick get your guys' opinions on man of the match, Ballon d'Or winner, Jorginho. I said in our group text, defensive masterclass. He had the most tackles out of anyone in any match on the match day in the Champions League. So out of the best teams in Europe, top matches in Europe, Jorginho had the most tackles. Matt, that's been your criticism of him since day one, that he doesn't play defense. So not only did he do that, but he scored twice without doing his little hop, skip, and a jump on the penalty. 59% of people who voted on our poll said he was man of the match. Matt, how would you have voted?
No. So here's one of the things that I want to call out. And trust me, I've thought a lot about this after watching the second half of the Malmo game. The fact that if you look at last year, Jorginho was our leading scorer for a while. And that was all based on penalties. You look at Bruno Fernandes for Man U. All of his are on penalties. I do not consider scoring a brace off of penalties as classification for man of the match. I just don't. And whatever, we can argue about that for probably hours on end. I don't like it. However, the one thing that I will say, I thought that he did better in the second half than he did the first half. The first half, I think he had a lot of kind of errant passes, errant touches, things that we're not really used to seeing out of him. I think there were some easy turnovers. I can remember probably about 3 or 4 where he just made a pass and there was nobody there. Like the defense just picked it out and he was trying to play some sneaky ball, but the defense read it. His first touch didn't look as sharp as it normally does. I thought he played a lot better in the second half. Do I give him man of the match? I personally wouldn't. I would lean more towards, and this is going to be the surprising one, I would lean almost more towards Big Rom for a couple of reasons. A, the fact that he was able to pull so many defenders in the short amount of time that he was there, which freed up so many other options, and he didn't have great service on a lot of them. The ball in from Mount, I mean, if that's on point, he's there. Timo making his runs. Ram obviously got the penalty before he got injured, but I mean, you're starting to see the link up play between him and Timo, and a lot of that looked good. He had a deflected effort that just missed. He's doing his job. Like, that's the way I look at it. Jorginho, sure, he's going to have the most passes completed. Fine. He's the Michael Bradley of Chelsea. Let's put it that way. He's going to pass the ball side to side, back, whatever. He'll make an occasional good pass going forward, which I still like Kova to do that, but more on that later. I think you could argue that Ram had a better impact for if you compare the time that he was in and what he did versus Jorginho going 90 minutes against an already, kind of ass-kicked team by halftime.
All right. Well,
Interesting. Interesting to say the least. to throw Ron's name in for man of the match is a bit of a stretch in my opinion. I thought our midfield was where we really shined as a team. I thought we really controlled play and possession well in the mid. And then our defense continues to just step up and surprise me and play very, very controlled, very dominating football. So I thought Thiago Silva played well. I thought Christensen looked good. I mean, those guys are just, and Rudiger too. Yeah, Rudy was in that game too, I believe. And they just continue to just dominate presence and really stick it to teams. And what I really liked about Chelsea in this game was, 2-0 at half, and then we came out and scored right away. I thought that was just like the really putting our foot on the throat of the team moment, where in other matches I've seen us kind of relax a bit and take our foot off the pedal and then maybe concede. Or we all saw what happened against Brentford, where you have a 20-minute spell where you are not there and you just have a relentless attack coming forward. I was afraid that Malmo was going to do something similar to us, and Chelsea kind of said, nope, not happening today. We're taking it to you and we're going to control it. And 4-0. It's a massive win.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Parker. I don't know how Big Rom could be man of the match when he played 22 minutes. I understand he played well. Him and Timo looked really good together. Had Rom played the whole match, he would have bagged a couple easily. But you can't win man of the match if you play 22 minutes. Just for reference here, so I can throw some stats in your face, Matt. Jorginho, 8 tackles, again, to lead all of Europe on the night. 3 interceptions to lead the match. That includes both teams. Passing, passed 88%, 100% on crosses and long balls. And again, 2 goals. Regardless of penalties, he scored half the goals in the match. But
for what it's worth, Matthew, I do tend to agree with you that looking at goals from open play versus if you're the dedicated penalty scorer, you have to do something to be that dedicated penalty scorer. So I understand that it's not just we pull a name out of a hat and then whoever gets it, right? But so Jorginho's earned that right to take them. But I do look at them differently. So I do agree with you on that point, Matt. So
yeah, and so I just want to be clear when I say, if you take that away, right? So if we're talking about that, if you take that away, if Jorginho is not your penalty taker, let's say it's Mason Mount. Does Mason Mount get man of the match then? Or does Jorginho?
It's an interesting question, but let me throw it right back at you.
Yes.
If those same stats that I just listed were N'Golo Kante, would you give him man of the match?
I would honestly, for something like that, which I know his passing accuracy is not going to be 88%. Like, that's just not what he does. I would say yes. I would say yes, that, that if that was N'Golo Kante, and just if we're doing blind whatever and I don't know anything, I would say yes. But the fact is, I also know N'Golo Kante is going to cover a lot more ground and do a lot more things on the defensive side of the ball and do a lot more of the little things that don't really show up on the stat sheet than Jorginho will.
George has probably his best defensive showing of the season right there. I mean, statistically, at least he did. But Matt, when I watch N'Golo play, he does those things that don't show up, and he makes me go ooh more than anyone else whenever I watch him play. Man, that dude, he just impresses me, and I just kind of shrug my shoulders and get giddy when I see him, because he just makes these little turns, these situations where ball's coming into him and you think there's no way he's going to be able to get away with this, and he does, and you're just like, oh my god, he's good. That's all I say. Oh my god, he's good. So
yeah, and so one other thing I want to clarify: this is not my I don't like Jorginho or whatever the case is. Collins, you said he had the most tackles out of anybody on the match day. You're talking one particular day, right? Anybody can have a great day. Fine. If we want to give Jorginho this one, fine. I'll give it to him.
Victory right there. I'll take it.
But at the same time, it's not something we should come to expect out of him game in and game out like we would from somebody like N'Golo Kante or Kovacic. So
fair. I'll concede that to you.
The other thing that's fair about this is our matches this week were Malmo and Norwich. So we looked really good and we handled our business. We absolutely did. You also have to recognize that he didn't do this against City. He didn't do this against Man United, against Liverpool, against Juventus, or anyone that's really gonna like go toe to toe with us. Malmo didn't threaten us. Norwich didn't threaten us. So this midweek or this week in general was a bit tough to take as a litmus test for our team.
Yeah, completely agree. Parker, you called it out perfectly. We and you kind of hit on it before. You talked about our defense, how our defense is so good. They were never tested at all. Like it was a shock when either one of the teams got the ball in their own third or in the final third. It was a miracle that they even got it that far. Like it was a week where Chelsea needed to, as you said, handle business, and they handled business. Well,
and Matt, you're talking about Ben Parker. You talked about it earlier in the pod, the defense playing so well. Just want to point it out that once again last week I spoke negatively about one of our players, Andreas Christensen. I believe I said something to the effect of, "This is the first and only time we'll ever mention his name on this pod." Well, he goes out and scores his first goal with Chelsea against Malmo. Congratulations to him. So that's the second and last time that we will mention him on this pod.
It was a phenomenal goal too. Can we just say that quick? That it was a really well taken goal.
It's a great goal.
Great pass from Silva and a fantastic finish.
The body control to get it from behind him and drive it into the ground was fantastic. So props to him on that. I don't hate Andreas Christensen. He's just, it's like an offensive lineman. The less you hear about him, probably the better he's doing. But I do want to talk about the lineup choices and leading into the injuries to our two strikers, because that kind of segues perfectly into this week. Matt, I know you had issue with Tuchel's choices. Care to elaborate any further?
Yeah, I kind of mentioned this last week. You don't need to bring a gun to a knife fight. And I feel like that's what he did. Nobody expected Malmo to do anything. Honestly, and the fact that Tuchel even made it public that Rama's been playing a lot of matches and that he needed a break. He made it public, and he still played him. Like, that's an issue. And then you're going to play Timo on the left side, who is realistically your backup striker to Ram. You're going to play both of them after they've been playing in the Nations League and consistent games. Like, I thought that the lineup that he chose was a lineup that you throw out against a top 6 team in the Premier League, or arguably a quarterfinal game, or round of 16, maybe round of 8 in the Champions League. I thought it was overkill. I think he would have been just fine playing, Ross, Saul. You could have played Sarr. I think he went too aggressive, but could it have been a statement game? Sure. Like, you want to rebound after the Juve game? Sure. But it's not like you got your ass kicked. You lost 1-0 on a kind of a freak play. Yeah, I don't think it's anything to really try and assert dominance back again, at least against a team that is clearly not at your caliber.
All right. Well, this is where I disagree with you. I think they needed a statement game. The Premier League, as we know, 38 matches. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Premier League, you have six group stage matches, and as we've seen in recent history, it's not a guarantee that Chelsea gets out of the group. 4 years ago now, I think that we were dropped into the Europa League, maybe more.
6.
Okay, that makes sense. But and you want to get as many goals as you can. You never know when goal differential is going to come into play, and you don't want that magic night in Europe where all of a sudden Malmo comes away with a 1-0 win. You can recover more from that in the Premier League, dropping a point to 2 points to Norwich or 3 points to Norwich. It's harder to recover in a 6-match tournament. So I'm fine with the way he played it. I agree with you in terms of Big Rom. If you're going to make that public, maybe he shouldn't play. But at the same time, he was getting great service. You could see Big Rom's confidence in those 20 minutes that he did play. So had he not been injured, maybe it would have been a coaching masterclass. So I think hindsight's 20/20 on it, but I can definitely see why Tuchel was prioritizing this over Norwich.
I kind of go back and forth on this one. It's a tricky one because of the public comments. If Tuchel doesn't make those public comments, I think we're all thinking the same thing of Rom's played in a lot of matches and he might need a rest. But his injury was not fatigue. He got a crunching ankle tackle in the box that won the penalty. So that can happen in training. That can happen anytime. The one that was weird was the Timo one. And I actually didn't mind the Timo start, but hamstrings are a little bit more finicky and fickle to deal with. And if he had been overworked or overtrained and then came up with something, that's where I sort of look at that as I don't know if it's more preventable or not, but it's due to fitness or it's due to the amount of matches that you play kind of back to back. So I thought our tactics were great, except for the fact that if you're going to go public and say Rom's been playing a lot and then you play him, it basically says like, this is a must-win game. That's kind of how I look at it, is you put one of your best teams, and as Matt, you said in the group text, it's a big boy lineup. This is a top 6 lineup. This is one of your best 11 that you can field. And it's a statement that we're taking this pretty seriously. I also think it's really easy to make a statement when you have Norwich up next. So there's that as well. If we have City or Liverpool at the weekend, I don't think we play that team. I don't think we can. So it goes hand in hand. But overall, I liked the aggressive play. Maybe without a Timo or maybe without a Rom, but not both of them together. That was my only kind of problem.
And now we are without both of them for, I haven't seen or not necessarily a diagnosis, but a time frame on Timo, but Rom, they're saying about 4 weeks, which brings them back just in time for the tough part of the schedule where we get, I guess maybe not so tough anymore, where we have Leicester, Man U, and Juve again. So, I mean, the good thing is that we get to experiment a little bit while we play bottom of the table teams, as we did this weekend. Norwich 7-0. Let me bring back up the score sheet on that one, because I mean it was a phenomenal match, and I could say the same thing about the Malmo match, but it's great to see where we are just constantly in attack. It's wave after wave. It's relentless rather than scoring a couple and sitting back. So, this weekend we did have 3 from Mason Mount. You had Cho chipping in with 1, or Cho probably could have had 2, but they gave Max Aarons an own goal on his second. And then Reece James and Benny Chills scoring for his 3rd straight Premier League match. So without a striker, how do you guys feel we did in Saturday's match?
Oh, we were creative, man. I thought there was a lot of movement. I think with our wing backs kind of playing in a little bit, coming in a little bit more central, it allowed for a lot of overlapping runs. And I saw a ton of runs being made. It was one of those things where you get someone on the ball and it seemed like everybody was moving and everyone kind of expected the ball, which I hadn't seen thus far. And relentless wave. Tim Krul had to have had 4 or 5 really good saves too in a 7-goal game. So including a penalty save that got called back. But Chelsea brought it to him, man. It was another one, like you said, Matt. It was a shock when Norwich even got a sniff at goal or even came halfway close, because we dominated that much. You love to see it. You love to wake up early as a Chelsea fan in America, 6:30 a.m. kickoff, and start the day off on a high note. So I was buzzing after this match. It was great to see, and Mace to get his hat trick. Was happy for him, proud of him. But I mean, without a hat trick, you could have given the man of the match to almost anyone on the pitch. It was fantastic.
It was a fun game to watch. It was just fun all the way around. We've talked about it on the pod already today. We asked the question, what do we do without Ram and Timo? What are we going to do? Surprisingly enough, out of all the goals that we scored this year, we have 16 different goal scorers on our team. Like and majority of that, I think Ram has 4, Timo has 2. Okay, what about everybody else? Like, we are such a dynamic squad that it doesn't matter who we throw out there. We have attacking options all over the place, even on the defensive line. Hell, I'm expecting Mendy to score a goal at some point this season. Like, everybody gets in on it. It's one of those things. Yeah, who's going to be the striker up top? Doesn't matter. Like, does it really matter? We have such a great amount of interchangeable pieces that we can maneuver wherever we need to. And seeing that with, when RLC, Ross, Saul, Ziyech, even when like they all came on, it changed the dynamic again. And we were still attacking and prolific, and we still held possession. We still dominated the ball. The fact that you can make that many changes in such crucial areas of the pitch, like it just speaks volumes to, I think, the message that Tuchel has presented to the club and the players. Like, here's what we're going to do. And it doesn't matter who's going in. We're going to keep doing things this way. And it shows. It doesn't matter who starts, who comes in off the bench, whatever. The tactics really don't change. And so to go back to the what do we do without Ram and Timo, business as usual, right? Ram has already been on a bit of a cold streak. Timo kind of hit or miss, depending on kind of what day you have them. Well, we're getting goals from other places, and I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and Parker, going back to what you said, I saw this for the first time really this season or under Tuchel in the Malmo match. It's where the wingbacks were playing more of a central role, kind of coming in almost a 4-person midfield. You could say alongside was Conte out? No, Conte was not out there. It was Kova. But that allowed for those overlapping runs, and it overloaded Norwich's midfield. It overloaded Malmo's midfield. We only threw really 2 midfielders out there, but having just those wingbacks wave through really caused a lot of confusion, and it opened up lanes. And I think that really helped unlock Cho. Callum Hudson-Odoi allowed him to open up into space. He loves going at people, although he hasn't necessarily done it a whole lot this season. You can tell that he's got the skill for it. He was going at defenders. Reece James was getting up into the attack, which was great to see. But Matt, the one thing I will disagree with you on there is I don't know if it's business as usual, because Kai Havertz looked terrible. I don't know if he's carrying an injury, but he looked slow around the pitch. And for all the reports I've I've read saying that, the number 9 is his favorite position, the more central position is his favorite. He wasn't doing much to get onto the end of balls. I mean, that was kind of an empty spot in our attack. And I saw the difference when Ross Barkley came on and took over that number 9 role. And I thought that was phenomenal. I saw somebody, actually a friend of the pod here, Concierge of Crime on Twitter, had made a joke earlier in the week about Ross should be our striker while Rahm's out. I'm okay with it. From what I saw, we were a lot more dynamic as soon as Ross came on in that number 9 spot.
Ross almost scored, I think, 12 seconds after coming on. Like it's about as instantaneous of a, and then he had one that got fingertip saved by Krul. So I mean, Ross almost had 2 goals in this game too, in a game where everyone wanted to get on the score sheet. I know Kai scored against Malmo. It was a good goal. It was the one where Hudson-Odoi ran from midfield all the way on, and then put Kai on, and it was a great chip. And he still had something to do with it. It wasn't all Hudson-Odoi's work. But for me and my money, Kai was probably the poorest on the pitch in the Norwich match. I just thought he was disappointing, and where everyone was kind of trying to get on the score sheet, you saw like Ziyech come on and want to get on the score sheet and put a couple of balls pretty close. At least I see the intent is there, and I see the effort is there, and maybe that like last bit of quality to get a goal isn't. I just don't always see that with Kai, and I don't know. He doesn't pass the eye test for me, at least yet. I leave the matches more disappointed in him than I am impressed by him.
I'm not fully on the Kai out bandwagon. The one thing that I have seen in the last few matches is him actually sprinting, which I don't think I've ever seen before. I have seen him at least try and make more of a concerted effort on the press. That is one of the things that I will say to his advantage. I have seen more of that effort in that regard out of him. If he's going to play that number 9 role, yeah, he needs to get in the box. And the more I thought about this, he's kind of playing like an Olivier Giroud type role, where I think he's meant to be more of a hold up and link up player than an actual like goal scorer. However, Olivier Giroud would actually get into the box and he would actually score goals. I understand that's the difference, but I think he's more of that, Kai's not going to beat anybody on a through ball. I think we can all agree on that. Just like Olivier Giroud would not beat anybody on a through ball. Like it's just not there. But I think the style matches very similar to what we used to do when we had Olivier. It's more that link up play, more be that big body, control the ball, and then that will free up the wings and even the wing backs who are making those runs. I think that's where the role of Kai being a number 9 kind of fits.
Unfortunately, we had somebody to make up for it in the attack. Not only Hudson-Odoi, like we've mentioned, but Mason Mount. I didn't realize that he hadn't scored since the semifinal against Real Madrid last season. Now he's got 3. He's the second leading scorer on the team, along with Chills. Is this Mace back for good, or are we kind of taking this match with a grain of salt?
A little bit with a grain of salt, especially considering he got a bit lucky having a penalty retaken. I thought he took that first one a little coy and a little cheekily, and didn't really treat it as if it was the match depended on it, because it didn't. But I still like to see my guys take it seriously when they go out there. And it was kind of funny because I think Ross Barkley was pressuring Mace a little bit to let him take the second one on the retry. So I wouldn't have hated seeing that. I kind of get for Mason that it's important to get one and then get one in, and he did convert the second, which is good. So a little bit with a grain of salt because it's Norwich, but Mace was positive, and I watched an extended highlights just before this pod just to refresh my memory on all the moments of the match, and Mount had other shots on goal that were close as well. So he had a very solid match all around, and yeah, he needed one and he got one right away. It was a fantastic. The first goal he had was a fantastic strike. I mean, he kind of definitely let it roll in front of him naturally and then took it first time, and it was a fantastic strike through the legs in the corner, and that's all he needed to get back going. So happy to see Mace back in form, and really want to see him take that next step going forward again and showing it week to week.
Yeah, I think, Mason had a game that kind of made us, revert back to what we expect out of him. He was creative, he was attacking, he was taking players on, he was doing all the things that we expected out of him. Again, it's Norwich. Like, you can take it for what it is. Until he's doing that more consistently against top caliber teams, then I'll start to believe that he's back. For now, I think that it's a great confidence builder for somebody who's been lacking that for arguably since the Euros. He's kind of been lacking it, and now with that position on the right wing opened up, with Pulisic out, with Ziyech not being in form, it opens up a lot of possibilities for that spot to be won. And I think he made a very large step in terms of winning that spot. When Christian comes back, does he take that over? That I think remains to be seen, because Christian has to stay healthy long enough to earn that spot. But I think for the time being, looking at who's first on the team sheet, I think you have to put Mason out there. I really think you do. I don't think that there's any argument against him being out there. He's creative. He tracks back. He plays defense. He can set up other players. His link-up play is great. Like, he can score. He's in great form right now. You can't keep him on the bench. I think he's got to be in your starting 11 day in, day out.
Yeah, and I think when Pulisic comes back, he's definitely not unseating Mace. Mace is too important to the team, not only statistically, creativity wise, but also he's kind of the spiritual leader. He's the son of Chelsea, son of Frank Lampard, as the meme said last year. It's great to see him score. Three goals and assist. It was just fantastic. What I really loved is his pairing with Reece James. You see all the Chelsea social media, all the fifth stand pictures of training during the week, and it's always him and Reece joking around. And it's great to see that translate onto the pitch. You can just tell that those guys have obviously played together for a long time through the academy. They're friends on the pitch, they're friends off the pitch. Mace's assist was on that great Reece goal. All around, just fantastic. Good feels all around. I know last week we had toasted to Cobham and the academy, and this was more than anyone could have asked, especially on the anniversary of Matthew Harding's death. Guy who loved the club as much as he did, was passionate about the club as much as he was. And a couple days before Roman Abramovich's birthday, a guy who has put countless amount of dollars into that academy. It's great to finally see all of that come together and produce.
Amen to that, man. I can't add much more, but you see what it means to these kids too. And I call them kids, but you see what it means to Mace and Reece. When Reece scored his goal, man, he looks so happy. He looks so joyous when he celebrates in front of those fans, and they're academy kids who are coming through the club. And we were joking that the transfer ban that we had a few years back with Frank Lampard, it may go down as one of the best things that could have ever happened to this club, because it allowed these kids, again, I'll say it, kids, get in, get first game experience. And they were a little bit rough at first, a little rough around the edges, but it got Reece James first team experience. It got Mason Mount first team experience. And I think it is paying massive dividends now. And we're seeing a well-oiled machine that they're still really young. They're gelled and they play well together. So we can toast Cobham again today, man. I love it. All for it.
The entire right side of the pitch was academy. If you go with Trevor, then Reece, then Mason, like that's a lot. And when they're all playing at the level that they're playing at, granted, I'll say it again, it is Norwich. A step up from Arsenal, but it's Norwich. You have to just applaud the academy being able to throw out three of these kids who's the oldest out of them? Reece, and he's what, 22?
23 or 24, I think.
Like, and he's the oldest out of the three. If you look at Chalobah, Reece, and Mason, yeah, lock them in. Contract extensions, yes, lock them in. I think that's where you have to go.
Well, that is the rumor this week, is that there's a contract extension coming for Mason Mount. Sounds good.
Sign him up.
Now just get Rudy.
Give him that Tony Rudiger money that they won't give him.
You know, pay them both. Just do that.
Hard to not pay this team right now, because this team's winning, and they're winning a lot. Go back and look at our results, man. They're winning a lot. It's hard to argue, and they're playing a lot of football. They're playing midweek almost every single week, and we're still able to field teams. I said it before, man, I'm saying it again. We're here to win everything. We are here to play and compete and win for everything. There is no excuses. There are no off days. We play to win everything. And we've got Carabao Cup coming up. Fuck it. We're playing for that too. We're winning everything this year.
Yeah.
I vote that our goal between the three of us, we have to get Tony Rudiger on the pod. We will spam him on Twitter, on Instagram. I got to figure out how to use Instagram, but I'll deal with that. But we will ping him on every social media platform until we get Tony on the pod and figure out what's going on with the contract negotiations.
I'll tell you what, Matt, you can be the executive director of TikTok. You reach out to Tony with some TikTok answers.
What's TikTok?
Well, we'll just dedicate every segment to Tony Rudiger, and we'll cheers him, we'll spam him, and we'll at least get him to acknowledge it. Let's start with the small goal. Let's get him to acknowledge us first.
Yes.
And then we'll get him as a guest to the pod, because I think the three of us combined for a pretty big chunk of the Tony Rudiger fan club. So yes. Striker Rudy, I know you tried very, very hard, and I know your boys tried hard to get you a goal in that Norwich match. I saw those direct free kicks. I saw us looking for him. Man, he almost got on the score sheet 2 or 3 times, and we're searching for you, baby. We're looking for you. So.
I think you should have taken the pen, to be completely honest. The man earned it. Give him the ball. Let him put a hole through the back of the net. Nobody's touching that.
Well, here's the thing. It's either going in the back of the net or it's going literally second deck.
Hey, I'll take those odds.
There's no middle ground there.
Either way, it's always rising. It's always rising, baby.
Yep.
Top net.
All right, so there was one other defender I wanted to talk about, and that was Thiago Silva. Once again, I mean, maybe we shouldn't talk about him because I feel like we say the same things about him after every match. But, you know, Matt, you called Josh Sargent was going to score in this game. he made Josh Sargent look like even more of a child than he already is. There were just a couple balls that I can think of where Norwich just kind of played it into empty space, and it was Sargent's job to go chase it down. And I think against a lot of teams, maybe he at least gets a touch to the ball. Thiago Silva just reads it from the start, gets to that ball and just swipes it. It literally taking candy from a baby. I was so impressed with Thiago Silva yet again. He's becoming one of my favorite players on the team.
I would just like to say it was my U.S. men's national team allegiance that was hoping for a Josh Sargent goal. And if I remember correctly, I did say that it would be on some kind of like BS play that Chelsea wouldn't really have much time to defend on. There was no way you could have strapped a rocket to his back. You could have done anything. He wasn't getting past that defense. He wasn't getting past Thiago Silva for sure. Like, the man's 37 years old. Everybody talks. Well, the thing that I find most disrespectful about, like, obviously not us, but most like soccer people who commentate, it's always Messi and Ronaldo. Well, here you have Thiago Silva, same age, if not older, still playing his position and one of the top players in his position, not just on his team, not just in the league, in the world. Like, he still, in my opinion, does not get enough credit for the work that he does. And I don't think he's gotten enough credit throughout his career for everything that he does. And I think it's kind of shameful.
Yeah, I think Parker and I 100% agree with you there.
Yeah, don't have much to add. I was going to mention one quick thing, Collins, if I could have 30 seconds, which was I always give credit to the keeper who doesn't have much to do in the match, and Mendy with a lovely slide tackle save when he gets called on. I just impressed that he stayed awake in the match because he didn't have much to do, and he still comes up. And then again, I feel like this is something that comes up a lot that we talk about, but he gets up and he just fist pumps and he lets out a roar because he did something. But that clean sheet means everything to that boy. And I think it means a lot to the defense in general. But when Mendy makes a big save, man, you see it on his face, you see it in his body, just what it means to him. And I love that more than anything. He takes personal pride. You are not getting in my net. This is my net. I own this space, and good luck if you come near me. And that's just take charge, man. I love that energy, love that attitude. And even if he will let one in, does it really matter? Nah, but he takes that personally. It's the famous Michael Jordan, right? And I took that personally. I feel like Mendy embodies that, man.
I'm surprised that Chilwell went up to him after that, because I feel like Mendy would have knocked Chilwell out. Because he was so hyped, and Chilwell was the one that made that errant pass off of I think it was a Norwich player, and then it led into that opportunity. But I give credit to Chilwell for even going up that close to Mendy after a save like that. He could have easily been knocked out just with the way that Mendy was celebrating.
Yeah, definitely good to see. And I'm not sure if we see Mendy midweek. This might be a Kepa match, but hopefully we see Mendy again against Newcastle. But let's get to the previews here. We do have Southampton in the Carabao Cup coming up on. I lost the date here, but anyways, we play a midweek. Southampton have a total of 6 points out of their last 6 games. We're now a quarter way into the season and deep enough into the Carabao Cup where it's getting to the point where some of these mid to lower table clubs are going to have to figure out whether they're prioritizing the league or the cup. Do we think Southampton's going to put up as much of a fight as they did in the league a couple weeks ago?
I don't think they have much of a choice. to me, it seems like they're going to be struggling in the Premier League, and if they want to stay relatively, relevant, for lack of a better word, they need to put up something against Chelsea. I think they come out with a pretty formidable lineup. And I think Chelsea comes out with kind of a B squad. I personally don't think in the grand scheme of things, and Parker, I know this is going to go against what you believe in, win everything at all costs. To me, the Carabao Cup, if you're looking at winning the Premier League and the Champions League, you have to prioritize certain things. I don't think Carabao Cup is going to outrank one or the other. So I think we throw out a B lineup, but saying that, our B lineup is pretty damn good. So I'm still expecting a victory against Southampton.
Yeah, I want to win everything, not at all costs. I do not look at the Carabao Cup above the Champions League. Matt, I agree with you. I think we rotate. I think it's a rotational day for us. The thing that's I mentioned earlier about Chelsea is when you're playing weekend and then midweek every single week, you need to have rotation and depth. For a Southampton, when you don't have every single midweek time to play, you have the ability. I mean, these guys are in the prime of their career. They're from 20 to 27 years old, most of them, and they're athletic dudes who can play almost every single day. So they don't have to rotate their squad. If they play a couple of matches in a week, they're going to be okay, because then the next week they have off and they can rest for 6 days and kind of recoup it. Chelsea, you can't do that because it's every single time, every single midweek we're playing in the Champions League or an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup or something else. So we don't have that luxury. That's fine. We have a phenomenal B and C tier league team that we can field. So I see Southampton putting their best foot forward. I see us putting a really good foot forward and being able to take it to them.
Yeah, the only two people I'm worried about with Southampton are going to be Tino Livramento, again, ex-Chelsea guy. He's had a great start to the season at left back for Southampton. I think he's going to cause us some problems. I guarantee that he plays. The other one is not going to play, and that's Armando Broja, who is their leading scorer. Chelsea loanee. Be great if we could recall him in the winter with the injuries we have. But he's their leading scorer at 4 goals. I don't think they have much else outside of that episode besides James Ward-Prowse. So I think they'll probably put up a valiant effort through 45 minutes, and I think we'll come away with pretty easy win after that. But I agree. I think we see probably a B plus lineup out there. I think we see Malang Sarr. I think we see Ross Barkley. Maybe you give Saul another trot out. Maybe see what he's worth before terminating his loan in January. It should be relatively straightforward, is what I'm thinking.
Is Ward-Prowse even available after his red card against Chelsea?
Does that carry over into the Carabao Cup? I don't know how those carry.
I don't know. I thought it was different between Carabao because that's English football versus like Champions League or something like that.
That would be above my pay grade, Matthew. Don't know.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure on that. Well, comment on Twitter if you do know the answers to it. Otherwise, we'll look it up.
We'll find out when they announce the team sheets.
Yep.
All right. So looking ahead then to the weekend, got another team that's struggling. 3 points in their last 6 matches. Newcastle United, although now they have the richest club in the world. It's gonna be first match without Steve Bruce, though. Could that provide a little bit of a spoiler for Chelsea?
New money United. I think anytime you have sort of, I think they have like a holding manager before they appoint somebody. Is that correct, Collins?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, this will actually be his second match. I remember seeing him this weekend. Anyways, go on.
Yeah, anytime you have a newer manager, especially in a situation where you almost have nothing to lose, knowing you're not going to be the guy full time, it's always a little bit worrisome. But it is Newcastle. It's a team we should beat. I'd be shocked if we didn't win. And then the other comment I'll make is when I'm thinking about like what are predictions in my head of how matches go, I'm starting to get incredibly spoiled in the fact that I don't see anybody scoring against us unless you are one of the 5 dominant clubs in the world that have formidable attack. Like I could see Paris Saint-Germain scoring against us. I could see Cristiano Ronaldo scoring against us. I don't see many teams in the world scoring against this defense, man. And if they do, it's very few, right? It's one goal here and there. But I feel like I'm starting to get really spoiled by this Chelsea team, and it's makes me really happy because I love it and I want to see my team win. But it's kind of freaky at the same time where I'm just like, God, I don't see anybody scoring against us. And I keep repeating myself, but it's a fun feeling. It's a fun place to be as a fan.
Yeah. Collins, you and I have kind of talked about this as we've played FIFA over the years, at least the recent years. Sorry, Parks, I know you're in Minnesota, so I feel like we always struggle against Newcastle. Like I feel like every single year, for whatever reason, it's always Newcastle. Even when we're playing FIFA, it's always against Newcastle that we struggle. Like there's just something, and I don't know what it is, but I'm thinking that with the team that we have, we're going to be able to kind of put that to rest. However, you throw in the dynamic, new interim manager, brand new money coming into the club. People at Newcastle are going to be, or at least the players, they're basically fighting for positions at this point because they know with that kind of money, they're going to bring in whoever they want. So I think there's definitely an added incentive for the Newcastle players to play harder and to want a little bit more than they might have shown under Steve Bruce and under previous management. So that is the only thing that kind of worries me. But I feel like if they're going to do that, we have the team that is going to be able to contain them more so than any other team in the Premier League right now.
Yeah, and Matt, you're spot on. Newcastle has always been kind of the boogeyman for Chelsea. The results don't necessarily show it. I'm looking historically right now. Looks like our last loss to them was in January 2020, and prior to that, it had been May of 2018. And in that time, we'd picked up 5 wins, but we haven't scored more than 2 goals against them since 2017. So they're a pesky team. They're definitely a team that's going to be up for it. Like you said, Matt, it's going to be people fighting for positions. It's going to be an interim manager fighting to keep his job. It's going to be, players looking not to be sold, players looking for a big payday, especially with new rich owners. And one of those players is Alan Saint-Maxime. I think he's going to have a fantastic game. I think he's going to, if he's going up against Chills, if he's going up against Alonso, that might be a weak spot for us. I don't foresee Newcastle, winning the game because of that. I think we're too deep all around. But they may get a goal in this one. And I say may. Parker, I think you're right. I think we're getting spoiled with the clean sheets. Maybe we're due. But I think if a goal is coming from anywhere, that's where it's going to be. But at the same time, Newcastle has also conceded quite a bit this year. I think they've given up 20 goals already. So maybe this is a redemption match for Kai. Maybe Cho gets back on the board again. Maybe Chills scores in his 4th consecutive Premier League match. Hashtag striker Chills. We'll see. It should be a good one, but I don't foresee, anything less than 3 points.
I think it's going to take one challenge from Rudy to set the tone against St. Maxime. He can ask KDB about that. It's going to take one challenge, and he is not going to go there anymore. Which if you think about it, you put Rudy on that side of the ball for a reason. You have Chills and Alonso. You put Rudy there on purpose. He's the enforcer on that left side of the field. Anybody goes past Chills, anybody goes past Alonso. Okay, got through that part. Here's your next test. Rudy, good luck. Because even if you do win, you actually lose. Because you're probably going to be put on your ass, or he has no problem taking a yellow to prove a point. So best of luck.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys caught it, but at the beginning of the match against Norwich, I forgot who went up for a challenge with him. Rudy just knocked him on his ass. Rudy helps him up and kind of gives him a little smirk, like, yeah, okay, you're not trying that again the rest of the match. He's the master of shithousery, and I'm all for it.
Pay that man.
All right. Well, we last week we did toast to Cobham. I don't want to repeat that. So let's toast to hopefully Rudy's new contract this week. Let's go 500,000 a week. Fair?
Send it.
Cheers to that.
Cheers to Rudy's payday. All right. And on that note, I think that should just about do it for this week. As always, you can catch us on really any of the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all of them at FlagDownPod. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, including Google, Spotify, and Apple. If you are on Apple, please subscribe, rate, and review. That helps us more than you know. But otherwise, as always, it's been a pleasure talking with you guys, and we'll chat again, hopefully after another 2 wins next week.
Until next week, boys.
Sounds good. Cheers, brother.